Hi there, I'm Mo Markham with Liberation Radio. We're 102.7 community radio Waterloo and 946 on Rogers Cable in Southern Ontario. I am joined today by Geraldine Stark from Refarm'd, and we are very happy to have her here. Welcome, Geraldine.
Thank you. Hello, everyone, and thanks for having me here.
Awesome. Well, some of you know what Refarm'd is, but I will explain a little bit, and Geraldine will explain much more. Refarm'd is an organization that is helping dairy farmers get out of milk production, which is very exciting, turning their farms into sanctuaries, and also becoming plant-based milk producers, which is awesome, which is a fabulous idea. And I believe Geraldine came up with this idea. It's an ethical and modern version of Milkman, delivering plant-based milks in reusable glass bottles, which is great to local customers in their areas, and a new plant-based subscription service. Geraldine joins us today from Spain, and we are happy to have you. Thank you so much, Geraldine, for coming. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about Refarm'd and give us a snapshot of what that looks like and how it started out?
Yeah, sure, definitely. Thanks for the introduction. That was great. I started working on Refarm'd about 2 years ago. Well, the idea just came 2 years ago, and the first year was about working on defining the model and trying to talk with people in these industries, farmers, ex-farmers, and everybody involved in this industry to just see if it would even make sense. And then the last year we have grown the team, and we are working now really on implementing the process and working with farmers. So yeah, that's about how it started.
So you're actually starting to implement your dream now. And I understand you have a couple of launches happening right this week, and we appreciate you joining us when you're in the midst of all of that.
Yeah, exactly. We're really in the middle of it. So we are launching basically our 3 first farms. We had some delays because of COVID and everything. We wanted to launch them this summer. We had to delay a bit, but we already did launch our first farm. It was last week, the first milk delivery in Switzerland. And in the 2 and 3 next weeks, we are going to launch another farm in Switzerland and 1 farm in the UK.
Oh, that's awesome. And so you've already launched, is it Lucerne in Switzerland?
It's the other one. It's close to Kalnach. It's called, close to Bern.
Right.
More the west side, yeah.
And the one in England that you'll be launching is in Birmingham, I think.
Yeah, it's closer to there. Yeah, it's in Ashbourne, very precisely. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. What's the soul of the project for you? What's it about? What was the impetus for you, really, Geraldine?
So I've been vegan for almost 10 years now, and since then I've worked in different vegan project or plant-based project. I created some vegan businesses like vegan online shops in France, where I'm coming from, or we tried to build a vegan village in Portugal with a group of friends. And I always had in the back of my mind that I wanted to create my own sanctuary, animal sanctuary, but I was never happy with the current model of animal sanctuary that rely on donation, rely on volunteers, and really just struggle a lot. I have a few friends who have sanctuaries, and it is always kind of a struggle, to make me month end to manage to finance it, and to just have always enough volunteers, and they have always more and more demand for bringing animals on. So yeah, I wanted to find another model of animal sanctuary that would be self-sustainable, and that would have a direct impact on animal exploitation. And that's how 2 years ago I just had this idea. We talk a lot about this with friends and my husband, who is vegan like me since 10 years. So we have been through a lot of such projects and talking about that, obviously. So I just realized that actually animal farmers or animal farms could be the perfect places for sanctuaries, because they already have the animals there, they have the structure, they have the land, they have the people that know how to care for them on a daily basis. Obviously, I'm not talking about factory farms. I'm talking about small scale or medium scale farms where the animals can roam and have space and have a pretty decent life. So these farms, yeah, could just become the perfect sanctuaries if those farmers stopped exploiting them. But the question is, um, how do you make them be self-sustainable, these farms, without using the animals? So that's where we came up with this model of plant-based milks. So we help those farmers transition into a sanctuary, at the same time become plant-based milk producers, so that they don't need to exploit anymore these animals and can keep them on the land. These animals stay on the farm and can retire there, basically,
I
as a
like that. I
sanctuary.
like that
Yeah.
idea of retire the animals retiring. Yeah, that's lovely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And
exactly. Yeah.
and so sanctuaries are fabulous, and most of us support them. We have a silent auction going right now for Corinna Lane Farm Sanctuary. You can find that on Facebook as well if our listeners would like to check that out. Some lots of great items, but it would be also great if there was a way to figure out how they could be self-sustainable. And you're right, many of the farm sanctuary owners have to work outside of the farm, and it's a great deal of work being on the farm. And you're right, there's always more and more requests for them to have animals. So it's a beautiful idea to go to where the animals are already being exploited and figure out how to change that.
And also, animal farming is very resources intensive. It uses a lot of resources. So, saving those animals and just using more resources, getting more land and everything, it just doesn't really add up. We need to try to reduce the impact on the environment from these farms, and
Yeah.
at the same time transforming this farm into sanctuaries is a direct impact on the animal agriculture, animal exploitation, because those farm means that transitioning mean that by the next year they will not bring more lives into this world to exploit. So each farm that we transition is like stopping this animal exploitation, so it has a direct impact on that, and that's very important for us. Yeah.
Do you want to talk about the environmental impact of animal agriculture?
Yes, so I'm not an expert. I say straightly on all those topics. That's why we also want to, get some experts in different fields along the way as we grow to really help us um, fine tune, if I can say it, so the model and the project. But there have been a lot of research done and papers done that show the impact on animal agriculture on our planet, and the fact that it leads to so much deforestation and just the soil being destroyed by the animals, and the intensive agriculture done. And most intensive agriculture is done, the crops are grown to feed these animals, not to feed a human. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember the exact numbers, but it was something like 70% of the planet's land is used for either for the animals themselves, for animal farms, or for plant farms that grow crops for the animals. So it's just huge. Instead of eating directly, the plants, we go by growing the plants, feeding these animals, and then eating the animals. So this is a waste of resources in between. And obviously these animals live several years, so the consumption of water they drink, but not just drinking. In those kind of milk farms, they use a lot of water to clean. They have huge machines where the cows are milked twice a day. They need to clean all those tables and the machines, and these machines use a lot of electricity. Yeah, and again the land and the feed and everything. It's just very, very resource intensive, and yeah.
Yeah, the last statistic I think I've seen in a few places, it maybe more than 80% of the agricultural land on the planet is
Yeah.
being used for grazing or for raising food crops just to feed the animals rather than to feed humans. Yeah, so it is definitely a big impact, and you're trying to make it local and waste free as well in other ways. Do you want to talk about that, the vision of it being local? And
Yeah, exactly. So our farms will produce plant milk. Well, we start with plant milk, but we're gonna do other products as well. I'm gonna probably talk about it a bit later. But so for the plant milk, we are each farm is going to do plant milks with local ingredients only. So depending on where the farm is, so we are working internationally with farms. We aim to help farmers around the world. So when a farm contacts us, the first thing we do is we do some research to understand what grows in their country, what could be the best ingredient, you know, to do plant milk. So for example, now we started with Switzerland and UK. We're doing oat milk because it grows best there. If we will work with a farm somewhere else, it will probably not be the same depending on the location. So it's really important for us that the farms use local ingredients. And also what we do is that these farmers only sell to local customers as well. So we are selling in 100-kilometer radius around the farm. We're not having these farmers, you know, make products and sell them around the world. They're just selling, and it's a fresh milk, so it's only not heavily processed, and therefore it only lasts about 10 days. So it's very important for us to deliver just around the farm, basically. So that makes it challenging as a business, you know, to manage all these criteria, but that's really important for us to keep it local. So the farm are local, the ingredients are local, and the customers are local, and it's all delivered in reusable glass bottle that the customers give back and that we reuse at the farm.
So you said that you are thinking about expanding in two ways. You're looking at other places as well. Do you want to talk about that a little bit, and then maybe other products that you're thinking about expanding into?
So what we do actually is that we don't contact farmers ourselves. We don't try to get the farmers because we believe there is no point in trying to convince someone who is happy about what he's doing. There are so many other people that want help, that want to get out for different reasons, but there are a lot of people actually. We always thought we would have difficulties to find farmers, but actually that's not the case. Since we started, we got contacted by so many farmers that we now have like a pile of farmers waiting for us to help them, and we are just starting now our 3 farms, and after that we want to not make a break but just make sure these 3 farms work, are succeeding before we obviously continue helping the others, so that we have a strong model before we can continue on. So
That's a
those 3
great
are
problem.
really
That's great to have people have a waiting list. Eh? That's
yeah,
amazing.
yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, for the farmers, that was kind of surprising for us. We knew there was some demand, but we didn't know so much. So we had requests from farmers around the world, really, in France and Spain, more in the UK, in Germany, in Italy, in Mexico, in the US. None yet in Canada, I think, but we had in India, even Pakistan. We had, yeah, in a lot of different countries. Um, Most of them are only now obviously at the we are only at the talking point where we just get to know each other and try to see if that could work, but we hope that after these 3 launches it goes well better, and then we can show that the model works and then move on with them. We're also working on because what we are doing is very out of the box and very new. It has not been done before. We're facing lots of challenges for example, the equipment, finding the right equipment, especially that we are doing it on a kind of a small scale. We are not, you know, like these big plant-based milk companies that have big, you know, factories where they produce and then ship around the world. We are, the farmers are doing it handmade at their farm, so it's very small. And to find such small, well, medium scale, I would say, equipment that works. There is no equipment existing already for plant-based milk, so you have to work with something else and try to make it work. Or for the delivery, logistic is very complicated as well, because we need the bottles to be delivered but also brought back to the farm. So there's a lot of different things that were difficult, and because of that we are now developing ourselves these different I would say we are developing our own logistic system now. We are building our own machines now because they were not great enough for us, the ones we have. So we have a lot of challenges we are facing because of that, and that we're trying to improve how our process works so that we can help more and more farmers as we go.
I'm not actually sure where you're based. I know you're in Spain right now, but I'm not sure if that's where you're based.
So the team is international. So I'm based in Spain. I'm living in Spain. I'm from France, but I'm living here, yeah, full time. But we have team members a bit around the world as well. We have some in France, some in the US, in Germany, in Italy, in the UK. So we have a bit of a spread team. So we all work remotely and try that. That's why it was a bit hard for us because of COVID, obviously, because we needed to travel to go to these farms and to get them ready, and that's a bit difficult, or ship equipment and things like that, and that has been a bit complicated in those times. Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. COVID has made everything a little more complicated around the world. But it can't be a better time to be transitioning animal farms for sure, given the nature of COVID and zoonotic diseases, and just where we're at in terms of planetary breakdown. It's a fabulous idea, and it's definitely its time has definitely come. I know you were talking about the possibility of other products as well. What other products were you thinking?
Yeah, so we wanted to start a product, the model very simple, like basically saying the farmers were making milk, now they're still making milk, but just plant-based. But after that, we want them to move to all types of dairy products, so other types of milks, always with local ingredients, but just different ingredients. But then also, plant-based cheeses, yogurt, creams, and all this kind of stuff. So what's important to note is that
Sorry, you said cheese and then yogurt
cream,
and something.
yeah, cream, butters, ice
Right.
creams, all dairy equivalent, if I can say. And what is important to know is that Refarm is not going to be like a brand of products. It's not Refarm, selling different products. Refarm is more going to be like a label that ensures you that this product coming from this farm are coming from farm that have transitioned. They are now 100% cruelty-free, no exploitation anymore, and that it's organic, that it's local, that it's made in reusable, all those values that we try to have at a Refarm. But each farm is going to have their own products. We also want the farmers to be involved in the production process, so they will come up with recipes, with ideas, and so that's each farm is going to be unique, work with different ingredients and different recipes. So that's going to make it really exciting. And what you could have before, where you could go, to your local farm and get fresh milk or fresh cheese, and the quality was better, and it was also different from each farm because the animals were fed differently and things like that. So here it's going to be a bit similar. We could have two farms that are quite close by but produce different products, and different just different sorts of products. We really want to involve the farmers in there and come up with their own ideas and their own recipes.
The name Refarm'd on it would tell people that it isn't from some conglomerate that is also exploiting animals over here and producing plant-based milks.
Exactly.
And although we're glad that they're doing both, it would be nice to know that where you're getting them is a completely ethical farm, and not exploiting and an organization. And it certainly is nice to be able to do that, and it will be nice to be able to do that, hoping you do get to Canada soon. We're going to take a short break, and we will be back in a few minutes. I'm Mo Markham, and this is Geraldine Stark with Refarm'd, and we will be back very soon. I'm Mo Markham, and I have Geraldine Stark here, who joins us from Spain today, and she is talking to us about Refarm'd. We're Liberation Hour Radio, 102.7 community radio, and 946 on Rogers Cable. Thanks so much for joining us today. I'm going to ask you some more questions, Geraldine. One of the things that I'm curious about, and I'm sure other people are too, if it's something they're considering, is how does it how does Refarm'd work from a financial perspective? Are you a nonprofit? What does that look like for the farmers? That kind of thing.
Yeah. So no, we are not a nonprofit. So what we are doing is we really want to cut as much middleman as possible between farmers and customers, because actually that's why farmers struggle so much nowadays, is because they don't have a say on anything, on the price, and they, I like to say, they don't even see the color of the milk, because basically the milk goes from from the cow into the tank, and then there's a truck that comes and take the milk, and they don't even know if it's going to be sold as milk, cheese, or anything. And the price change monthly, so they really don't have an impact there. And in some cases, and not rarely, in lots of cases, they sell for less than production costs. So you can imagine that's a big problem. So I really wanted to give back the kind of power, if I can say, to farmers, where they really enjoy more what they're doing, where they have a say, where they are really producers, creators of products, and therefore we are not selling through, for example, shops or things like that. We're only selling. It's a subscription-based service, so we are providing everything around it. So the platform for customers to subscribe, the logistic around delivering. We are providing the equipment and everything for the farmers for free. The training on how to do the milk, the basic recipes on how to do these plant milks, and obviously ongoing support, and introducing new products and new machines and all that. And so from the subscription we get for their farms, we take a percentage. We take 15% for Refarm, that helps us buy equipment for the next farm. So each farms that is transitioning actually helps the next farm transition, and obviously also for all operational costs, and the rest goes straight to the farmer. So that they can sustain, because they need to sustain themselves, but also obviously the production and the animals and the sanctuary.
So the farmers themselves, they are not not a nonprofit, but Refarm'd is using the money to continue to start more to help more farms transition around the world.
Yeah, so the farms themselves are all already for profit, because they are farms selling milk. In some cases, we really give this liberty to farmers. They create as well a non-profit for the sanctuary part, because some of them want to raise as well donation. Some already did, for example, before we started working with them, and some just want to have this on top of it. But our model is so that we don't need or require the farmer to get any donation. The price we put on the milk covers, the yeah, sustaining the animals and everything. But yeah, we because we are providing with, we really try to provide them with everything around it, so they really just focus on making the milk and taking care of the animals, so that they don't need to find customers, they don't need to look for equipment or recipes or things like that. We try to provide all of that, and yes, taking this percentage help us continue helping other farmers, basically.
And how did you get started? Like, what did you have money to get started? Was that through donations to Refarm'd, or I know you said some of the farms themselves have had donations, but
yeah, no. So Refarm'd is self-funded for now. We try to not get any investors on board, because we have put so many values into Reform, being it the ecological aspect, the local aspect, obviously the vegan, well, the non-exploitative part, that we know that when we bring investors on board, you have to you're just depending on someone, and it might change the course of action you want to take, and we don't want, so at least not so soon in our project, to have to need to change anything, or to have an external influence that could change the direction we're taking. So we are trying to fund it ourselves, and now that we have our first farm launching, we are starting to be able to get money from this percentage that we take from this milk. So obviously for now we are still funding it ourselves, because we need to invest in the equipment for all these farms, and we have people on the team, obviously, that we pay. But we hope that the model can work out like this, because of this percentage that we take, that we can then start to be able to finance the next farms, not from our pockets anymore, but from this money. So hopefully that works, and allows us to grow as we want. We might consider it later, but for now, at least, we're really trying to keep it self-funded. Yeah.
Sounds good. Yeah, it is more difficult, certainly when you have more fingers in the pie,
Yeah.
or in the jug of milk.
Exactly.
What do you know of other successes with this sort of thing in other places? I know about Rowdy Girl in the States, and I know that they're helping people to do something similar. But can you talk about that a little bit? You must have more experience with that.
Yeah. Well, I've been in contact with, I think, all of them that are doing it for now. It's a nice close community, so we are getting to know each other well, and I have a lot of chats with Renee from Rodico, sorry, and yeah, it's just or for example, where you might not know them, but Sarah Hofnauer from Switzerland, she's helped almost 20 farmers in the last 2 years transition. She's very known in Switzerland, and she actually helped me a lot to come up with this model, and she redirected farmers to me. So that's how we are working, because we are all working in a bit different aspects. For example, for Rowdy Girl, they're helping them on the process of transitioning to usually to plant-based agriculture, or for example growing mushrooms. So these are all transitions that are really long, that cost a lot, obviously. So they help them by connecting them with people who can help them, who are experts in those topics, and help them transition. um, uh, but what we do is a bit different, in the sense that we wanted to provide a solution that is easy and quick for the farmers, and where there's no investment from their part. There's no investment at all from their part, and it's quick. I mean, if they want to start, they can start in a few weeks, months, because we are not asking them to grow the ingredients, at least at first. They are not required to grow, so we will just find local providers for the ingredients, so they can immediately start doing the milks and getting income from that. And for those who want to, they can then start, planting those ingredients and reducing their cost this way. Because we really wanted to. Before I started that, I heard about, farmers wanting to transition, but the only solution they had until now was to move to plant-based agriculture, or just get out of this whole farming system and do something else. But that's very scary, and moving to plant-based agriculture requires a lot of time and investment, because you cannot just use a land that was used for animals to grow human food on it. It takes several years before you're able to. Then you need to plant and harvest, and you need to find customers for it. So it's not as easy. So there was an excuse for a lot of farmers to say we cannot make it, and also that they cannot make it because some farms cannot grow anything because they don't have any arable land, or not enough arable land, or the farm is in the mountain or something like that. So I wanted to find a solution that could work for any type of farm, so that and that is easy and with no investment and quick, so that barely have no reason to say, oh well, why should I not try? And we also work with a trial period, so they can try it out basically for 3 months, and if they're happy, then we can continue with them. And that's where, after these 3 months, we put them on contract, and we put the animals on legal protection as well. So that's how we work. But to answer more to your
I
question,
like that. So
yeah,
so part of the contract is protecting the animals who
yeah,
are there, so they
definitely.
don't just go and sell them and profit from them in another way.
No, exactly.
That's
Refarm
great.
is really is not existing if the farmer has no animals, or sell his their animals or something like that. They need to keep their animals, and they need to keep them until they die from natural causes. We provide them some help with vegan vets, for example. They can help them, know how to care for them, because obviously, as they become a sanctuary, the animals will be older and older, what they have never experienced before. So they're going to have more and more diseases that farmers are not aware of. So they need some help, and in some cases from some experts in those domains. So we're trying to put them in contact and to get them help from other vets, because obviously the normal vets, if I can say so, are used to animal farming, that that have a purpose. So when the animal is something that is too expensive to treat, they just send them to slaughter. So obviously that's not something we want. So we have also to find better ways to do that. But yeah, they need to keep the animals there. And if they have space, we ask them to be able to get more animals, to save more animals. And the idea is that when those animals die from natural causes, that they can continue being a sanctuary and rescue others. And this will allow us over the course of several years to be able to maybe help bigger farms where there's no way for the farmers to keep all the animals because they live, very tightly together and there's no space, so that we would need to find homes for at least a part of them. So if we can have already other, farmers that are transition and where they start getting space on their sanctuary, that I can, help save them. So that's a
Oh,
longer term.
you've really thought this through, the long-term implications of it all. That's great. And you're right, of course, it is hard to find vets who've seen older farmed animals because they just don't exist in our system when we kill them off so young. Most of them under a year or within a year or two of being born. Sorry. And my cats are all over the place. My vegan cats are all over the place right now while we're talking. But yes, it is difficult, and I love the fact that you've thought through the whole process, what it will look like when you begin to expand to larger farms, and what it'll look like for the animals. I love that. So the driving force for you, it sounds like, is both the animals and the planet. What animal agriculture is doing to both animals and planet and our future.
Yeah,
What
yeah, definitely.
what got you interested in all of that? Where did all of this start for you in terms of your interest in veganism? You've been vegan for 10 years now. What was kind of the impetus for you to go vegan, to start being an activist?
Yeah. So we saw with my husband at the same time the speech from Gary Yourofsky, the best speech you ever hear, and that was it for us. We just became vegetarian 1 month before, because my husband has seen some slaughterhouse footage, and so he was like, "No, I cannot participate in that anymore." And at the same time, I'm initially from the hospitality industry. So I was working in, hotels and restaurants. So, and the last jobs I had in those industry was in a grill house. So you can imagine, it was like meat all around me. And we had 3 dogs at that time, and we were feeding them raw meat only at those times. So, and big dogs. So we had like freezers full of raw meat. We were making deal with butchers, and so we were really heads in um, in meat and blood and all that. And I was never a big meat eater. Cheese, yes, but meat, no. So when my husband saw that and he was like, "Okay, I'm gonna stop eating meat," I was like, "Okay, I will join you, no problem," because it just disgusts me, so much to continue doing all that. And then we saw this speech from Gary, and then we was like, "Okay, now we're vegan, that's for sure." And then we just the next day, you have to go to the supermarket and you spend 4 hours just going through all the labels and saying that why is there milk or eggs in there? There's no point. And trying to rethink all you're doing and relearning to cook. At this time we were living in France, and not in a big city. So 10 years ago in France, we didn't know any other, not even a vegetarian by that time, and there was obviously no restaurant, nothing. So I was very lucky that we could do it together, because alone I might not have been able to do that. You have no social life, you have nothing when you're vegan in France, and you cannot eat out because they put butter and cheese everywhere and cream. So it was really hard. Now it's almost too easy to be vegan, so that's great. It's
Yeah,
amazing.
it definitely is much easier. Certainly, there are online mentoring programs to go vegan, and just so many more options out there in restaurants and grocery stores and health food stores, etc. Um, I would like to take another quick break. I'm Mo Markham. This is Liberation Hour Radio, 102.7 FM, Radio Waterloo, and I am interviewing Geraldine Stark from Refarm'd, and we will be back in a few minutes.
Hello, I'm Jay Wild. I recently heard about a scheme started by Geraldine Stark called Refarm'd. Refarm'd will supply farmers with nuts and seeds and equipment to produce plant-based milk and possibly cheese. These products can be sold direct to the local consumers, cutting out the supermarkets and the big dairy buyers. Provide hopefully a better income for the farmers and a future in a marketplace which is demanding more and more plant-based products and less animal-based products. It seems to be a way to secure the farm for the future in uncertain times, and I think you should give it genuine consideration. Thank you.
Mo Markham coming back from our break. This is Liberation Hour Radio, and I'm interviewing Geraldine Stark from Refarm'd. One of the things that you were saying earlier, farmers are actually selling things for less than cost, for less than their cost. Many governments are subsidizing animal agriculture, and that happens certainly here in Canada, billions of dollars of subsidies. And one of the organizations that's working to stop that, to stop those subsidies in Canada, and I think there might be some groups starting up in the States as well, is called Nation Rising, trying to get the federal government at least, and I think also at some point they will probably try to get the provincial governments to stop doing it as well. So we're putting money into this system that is destroying the planet, and I love that you're trying to create a system that is working to end that, so that you know, that we're paying for what we're getting, that we're paying a fair price, and trying to do something local and with less waste, etc. So I'm glad that you're doing that. And cow's milk is really kind of heading downhill anyway, in terms of the public interest. A lot of alternative milks are coming up. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So when I was looking for a model for these farms to transition into sanctuaries, I looked into plant-based milk because it was really getting more and more successful. The last years, it's really a booming market. And at the same, so what convinced me more was the fact that plant-based milks are booming, than the opposite, you know, that cow's milk is going down, but actually it is going down. Prices are falling down, and the sales of the milk, there is less and less demand for that, and so I know a bit more about in Europe, obviously, but just for UK, for example, between 2013 and 2016, it meant 1,000 dairy farms that closed in only 3 years because of that, because of this struggle they have, and the prices and the less of demand. And at the same time, in the same period, since 2015, we have an increase of 30% in the UK alone for plant-based milk. So this gives you a trend that you cannot ignore. And something I like to say as well is that if you want to know in which direction you should go as a business, just look at what big companies are doing. And what are the big companies doing? Even the dairy focused companies, they're all switching. Either they're just implementing some plant-based product, and some big companies are just moving to 100% plant-based dairy products. So that's amazing. And obviously they can make it because they have a huge budget. They have they can do advertising, they have researchers and everything that can help them. But the dairy farmer there that does his job since generation and generation, he doesn't have that. He doesn't even know about it. So that's why they are closing down, and that we will just end up with factory farms and huge companies. There is not anymore, you know, this idea that you have your little local farm with fresh product. That almost doesn't exist anymore. Farmers don't sell directly anymore to customers. When people say, yeah, we have to support our local farmers, you know, buy dairy to support farmers, but actually when you're buying milk or cheese in the supermarket, you're not supporting them at all. You're supporting these big companies, these big processors that buy those milk from them and don't give anything else to them. So I believe if you really want to help farmers, you need to help them get out of this system that is just killing them, destroying them, not even mentioning obviously the animals and the environment, but just them, you know.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And so many of them are struggling. Even some of the larger dairy companies in the States have gone down in the last couple of years. Canada, unfortunately, keeps propping up the business, which is not helping anyone. But it's true. It does get to be harder and harder for the small farmers to operate, and so it becomes just these huge multinational corporations who are making money. And they are also, as you say, switching or adding product lines, almost all of them, adding vegan meats and cheeses and dairy and milks, etc. So I think it is the way to go for sure. You talked, I've seen you talk a little bit about food forests, and can you expand on that a little bit and talk about how that's related to your project?
Yeah, so we have some short-term and long-term plans for Refarm'd, like I mentioned, working with bigger farms later on and all that. At the same time, we also want to be to have the farmers compensate for all the damage, if I can say, they've done on the environment. So not just, having them stop producing milk, but also improving their their farm, improving their land, soil regeneration, planting trees, and using different alternative sustainable energy sources and all that. So again, I'm not an expert in that. That's why that's a long-term goal we have, and at some point we will bring people on that have the knowledge there to help them, optimize their farm to be more and more sustainable. And actually that's an interest that a lot of the farmers we are working with have. They also started to realize the impact on the environment, so they want to do more than just stopping what they were doing. They really want to be more active and work on the soil and everything. So food forest is an idea that some farmers could, depending on where they are and the land and everything, but they could just plant a lot of trees, but producing trees or fruit trees and things like that, and just recreate this kind of a small forest, if you want, because this is the best environment for the soil and for producing food. I visited some food forests here. We have here one in Spain that is very known, and it's just amazing because actually you have a lot of work in the beginning, to restore the soil and plant the trees, but after that, the planet never needed us to function and to provide food. So when you just let it do, it creates its own ecosystem, and it produces the food it needs. So then you have even less work, and it's just a perfect environment for that. So obviously not everyone can do it, and this is just one of the ideas that can be done, but definitely every farmer can just plant more trees instead of having these these bare lands with crops, fields and things like that, to really make the soil better and help keep the water and all that.
Yeah, certainly.
And enhance biodiversity as well. I didn't mention that, but that's also very important.
Yes, absolutely. And certainly that's one of the biggest, the most incredible downsides of animal agriculture is all of the trees that come down now and have come down in the past. What's happening in the Amazon, but certainly everywhere. You can't graze animals or grow food for them without using land that could have been, trees, forests or marshland, and it would be lovely if farmers were able to do more of that on their land. When you go out in the country, so often it's just bare fields and no trees. And we need to start rethinking it and get our system to work with nature instead of against it, which is what we're doing.
And probably as well rewilding some lands, because we use so much land that there's no more biodiversity. We don't have natural predators anymore. There's a lot of loss. So by stopping animal industry, we can we will get a lot of land freed, and that we can use. Not only we won't need so much land to produce food just for human, if it goes straight to human. So we'll have a lot of land that we can rewild as well. And something interesting as well is the farmers we're working with. because the animals that stay at their farm will not be producing anything anymore. They will stop being fed what they're being fed, because currently, you know, they're fed cereals and grains and all that, you know, to make them more productive. But to produce this, most of the time it even comes from other countries, so it's imported, and it's just very resources intensive to produce these crops. But actually what cows need to eat is just grass or hay in winter, and that's it. That's their natural food. And when you do that, and that's what farmers that work with us, they stop feeding their animals these grains, and that's, first of all, that's a huge reduction in cost for them, because there's like 30% of their costs are just animal feed. But also it means they can free up, if they were doing themselves, in some cases they were growing themselves some grains and things like that for the animals. So this means they can stop and use this land to produce something else, to produce their own ingredients, for example, for the milk, or to sell something else, or just have more room for the animals, or to start planting trees. So it's a win-win for everyone, just to do that.
I like that. I hadn't actually thought about what the animals are eating, that would be different if they're needing to produce more milk and be fattened up to kill for meat. So many times on Facebook, people say, oh, well, you know, these animals are going to go extinct, like cows are going to go extinct. I think, I say that these are not the animals we need to worry about going extinct right now. All of the other animals are going extinct because we are cutting down forests and grasslands and swamplands to raise food and to graze these animals. You know, billions of them, while the wild animals are dying off.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, those cows or all animal farms are not natural animals anymore. They have been so modified that that's why we see when they go in sanctuaries, they just get so many problems. They cannot walk well. It's even worse, you know, for chickens or ducks and things like that. It's horrible. Or you know, turkeys. It's their breast is grown so much that they cannot even stand up, and they lose all their feathers. And and with the cows, you know, the dairy cows, they have huge udders. They can barely walk, and they get mastitis and a lot of other problems. So there would be no point in keeping these animals like this to live. It's just suffering for them. What is it? And yeah, like you say, it's like we have billions on them on the planet, and other what about all the other species that we are losing every day? They're important. What we could do instead, and Rowdy girl is also working on that, is to reintroduce these animals into the wild and try to go back to the natural state of these animals, so we can then just let them, you know, become again part of the wild. But definitely not like we have now, with these trillions of animals that are brought to life every year, so that just to be killed.
Yes, the chickens for sure, bred to produce so many eggs that it's so hard on their bodies. I have a friend with a chicken sanctuary, and you know, they get the eggs caught in their systems. They break. They get peritonitis, I think that's what it's called. But they get infections, and you know, they just go through so many problems. And the ones who were bred for meat, they end up you know, growing, so they have to be kept separate so that they don't eat themselves, eat so much that they can't even walk anymore. So, you know, people think that our eating meat is natural. What we're doing is not natural, certainly not to the planet, not to the animals. I think we need to wind down in a few minutes. I'm just wondering if there's anything else you wanted to share with us, some of your challenges, how people can help, how people can get involved.
Yeah. So obviously, if you're in UK or Switzerland, the best way to help us or the farmers is to subscribe to their oat milk. But we know it's not the possibility for most people. But what helps us currently is really sharing about the project, because this brings us a lot of contact, lots of possibilities, and yeah, just get also in the ears of farmers that also contact us, and then we can then help and bring more of this transformation around the world, hopefully. But for now, yeah, that's the most the help we can get. We got some people that cannot get the milk, but they still want, to support. And because we are not a nonprofit, we cannot accept any donations. So we are trying to think about ways where we could have do that. So we are thinking about, for example, memberships, for private groups where they will have direct access to exclusive content about the farmers, or the team, how we work at the team, and podcasts and things like that. Because a lot of them would like to have, for example, like a newsletter, weekly newsletter from the farm directly, to have more, stories and details about the farm and the farmers and the animals and pictures and videos. So we might come up with something like that as we go. Obviously, for now, we're really in the middle of launching, but after that, yeah, we might come up with solutions like that. But yeah, just talking about that, it brings us connection, maybe people that can help us, with building machines, or on the recipes, if there are some experts on plant-based milk that want to help us out, or helping in general farmers, like I mentioned the vegan vets, or later on improving their soil, all these topics that we address basically. I'm no expert in it, and none of our team members are. That's also on purpose, is because we are doing something so new and out of the box, that I needed people that can think outside of the box. So sometimes when you have experts that have knowledge in over 20 years in something, it's harder for them to think outside of the box. So I prefer to work with people who don't have this expertise, but just are very passionate about it and really want to know how to do some research and make some trials, and have problem solving skills basically. So we also bring up some people. We have the core team, then we have some volunteers, we have some interns working as well. So yeah, in all these different things, we can be helped this way. Yeah.
Awesome. So people get just a variety of skills would be useful down the road. People can follow you on Facebook, and you also have a website, and I think it's Refarm'd.
Yeah, the website is, like you said, is refarm'd.com. So Refarm'd without the E, so Refarm'd. This is the main website where you get about what Refarm'd is, where we present our 3 farmers. And then we have the web app where people can subscribe. So if you go there, you can see where the farms are, you can select a farm, then you can select a pickup location, and then you can subscribe. That's the web app. So, and then we have Facebook, and we also have an Instagram account on the Refarm'd official, and on Facebook it's just Refarm'd. And there we try to update several times a week about our farmers or what we're doing. Yeah. And
Awesome.
we can all be reached by email, obviously, or WhatsApp if people have questions.
That's great. I am so excited about what you're doing, and glad to have a better understanding now of what it is, and all your plans for future. I hope you can take over the world, and I hope you do that as soon as possible, and hope that you get lots of help with that. I appreciate your being here. I'm Mo Markham with Liberation Hour Radio, 102.7 FM, Radio Waterloo, 946 on Rogers Cable. And we're very honored to have our guest, Geraldine Stark from Refarm'd, with us today. Thank you very much, Geraldine.
Thank you. Thank you so much for you.
Thank you.